So I'm 16, and I'm pulling out of the alley behind my parents' house. Radio is blasting, and I'm actually still learning how to drive clutch at this point. So I'm looking down at the pedals, like trying to figure out this whole shifting thing as I'm pulling forward into traffic. And when I finally look up again, I smash right into the side of a red car that was driving by. Now, nobody's hurt, but I am left there trembling. And worse, after I walk back through the snow to my parents' house to call the cops, my mother meets me at the door, and she says, "Why are you back so soon?" And I say, "I just smashed up your car." And I see the anger swelling inside her, like her nostrils are flaring out. And she is so angry. But when I actually finish explaining, I see her swallow the anger down. And she says, "Well, maybe that's not the whole story. Maybe there was a car illegally parked near the alley entrance, so you couldn't see the other car coming. And maybe, right after the wreck, a little old lady got into that car and just drove away. Maybe that's what really happened." And she's nodding at me, hypnotizing me. Now, there was no little old lady. She made that up. But I understood she was giving me an alibi, a way to shift blame. But as I'm walking back through the snow to the accident scene, I remember feeling really lonely. And I'm shivering there, waiting for the cop to come, trying to decide whether to take my mother's advice. When the cop finally came, I did. I lied. I told him all about this little old lady and her illegally parked car. Now, the cop knew this was bullshit. He gave me a $200 fine, revoked my license. So that night at dinner, my mother is insulted. She is incensed by this. And she says, "Why didn't the cop believe you?" And I say, "I don't know, Mom. He just didn't." And my mother turns to my father and says, "Are you going to stand for this? We should take this case to court." Now, this is a bad idea. For one thing, nobody ever tells my father that the little old lady part of the story is bullshit. 2, I've been getting in a lot of fights with my dad recently about speeding tickets I've gotten, curfew I've missed. I don't want to work with him on some stupid court case. 3, my dad is actually a local judge, and it would be frowned upon, to say the least, for him to represent a family member in court. And luckily, my dad sees all this and says, "No way." Except my mom keeps working on him, wearing him down. And about a week later, my dad says, I actually haven't run my own case in years. This might be kind of fun." So to my horror, he files the lawsuit. Now, over the next month, he coaches me on my testimony, and he decides that in addition to the little old lady part of the story, he wants to bolster my case using science. See, my dad studied physics in college, and I was kind of a science geek too, so we decided to run some experiments. We park a dummy car where the little old lady was supposedly parked, and we measure, like, how many degrees did she cut down on my line of sight? Then we start timing other cars as they go by to see how much less reaction time I would have had. Then I start calculating, like, momentums, vectors of force. My dad teaches me a little, like, advanced trigonometry to help out, and I thought it was kind of cool. I'm walking around saying, like, cosine, secant, tangent, sine. And my dad says 3.14159. And I have to laugh because it's a stupid pie joke. But anyway, so we dropped these 2 huge posters, like Exhibit A and Exhibit B for court. And this whole time, I'm kind of amazed at how much fun we're having. Like, the last time my dad and I collaborated on anything sciencey was the Pinewood Derby boxcar race in Boy Scouts, and we'd fought the whole time, we'd gotten last place, but this time we're really working well together. Still, I'm pretty nervous on the day of court, and I kind of mutter through all that truth and whole truth stuff, but having my dad there really helped. And the weird thing is that once I started testifying, I felt a lot better. The thing I love about science is that it's pristine. It's universal truth. And really, I would say like 95% of my testimony was true. Because we got the little old lady part of the story out of the way right at the beginning. And from then on, it was just cosines. It was momentum. And as long as I focused on that 95% that was pure science, I was okay. And the thing is, it worked. The judge slammed the gavel and we won the case. Me and my dad's handshake, it turned into a hug, and then he took me out to lunch to celebrate, which he never does. And at lunch, I can barely eat. I'm just sitting there dazed. I was gonna get away with everything. Except about 6 weeks later, I come down for breakfast, and my mother slaps the local newspaper into my chest, and the headline reads, "Local Judge Censured in Family Court Case." Turns out the State Bar Association, my dad's friends, censured and rebuked him for representing me in court. And I mean, my dad knew that this might be frowned upon, but he didn't expect a statewide humiliation like this. And to turn it, on top of all that, the story even mocked our physics diagrams. And to this day, people in my hometown still bring up that case sometimes. And to this day, I still haven't told my dad that the whole thing was a lie. I guess that's partly because I don't exactly know the statute of limitations on felony perjury. So if we could just keep that between us in this room, everyone, I would really appreciate that. But honestly, I'm ashamed to. And I think it would shatter something. It can be really hard for two grown Midwestern men to talk, but I ended up studying physics in college, just like my dad. And nowadays, I write books about science for a living. And he still lights up when he reads my books. We can still share that love of science. And it really all got started with this court case. And I think he feels that despite the censure, despite the humiliation, because we got to share that time together, it was worth it. And I actually feel that way too. 95% of the time. Thank you.